Okay, so you're aware of esports, you know it's a big deal, but you also might have some questions. How does it all work? Who are the athletes? How many people watch it? Is it considered a real sport? Should I be paying attention to it more? Well, we're going to answer all of that and more in this video. This is your beginner's guide, so let's get into it. Alright, first let's kick off with some quick stats because they are absolutely wild. The global audience for esports is an estimated 532 million people. The biggest esports prize pool in history was over $40 million at the International for the game Dota 2, roughly the same prize as winning Wimbledon, the Tennis Open in the UK, although a new tournament that's happening right now in Saudi Arabia looks like it's going to set a new record. The most valuable esports team in the world is TSM, valued at $450 million. Sponsorship and media rights revenue for 2023 is an estimated $882 million, and the revenue for the entire esports industry for 2023 is going to hit $1.4 billion. Now, we can throw numbers around all day, of course, and it's not just about the money, but it does give a sense of how ginormous and valuable this industry has become. But fundamentally, what is esports as a whole? Well, it's short for electronic sports, although no one really calls it that, but it's essentially a form of competition through video games. The competitions are usually multiplayer, with individual players or teams taking part in matches against each other, not dissimilar to traditional sports. Esports covers lots of different genres of games across different platforms, including mobile. Some genres of games overlap slightly, but broadly speaking, the most popular are the following: multiplayer, online, battle arena, or MOBA games. These are games where you and your team of players individually control an army of sorts and have to balance resources, strategy, and combat, usually with the objective of destroying something in the enemy's base. League of Legends is a big title in this category, as is Dota 2. Next up is first-person shooters. These include games like CSGO, short for Counter-Strike Global Offensive, where you're focused on precision shooting and tactical play. You generally play on one of two teams through a series of rounds before switching sides, trying to achieve your objective and eliminate the other team. Battle Royale games is another category. Fortnite and PUBG Mobile would be examples here, where lots of players start on a map with no resources. They must hunt for weapons and gear, whilst the play area gradually shrinks until it's the last person or team standing that wins. There's also fighting games like Street Fighter, where you fight in close combat. That is another category, as are racing games like Gran Turismo or the F1 Esports series, and of course traditional sports titles like FIFA, NBA 2K, and others. Plus there are games that cross over these categories as well, like Rocket League, which is kind of like football but with cars. There are also card games like Magic the Gathering Arena, which are about strategically building your deck and decision making, and there are even competitive scenes for puzzle games, rhythm games, and more recently VR titles too. This year we also had the Esports Olympic series in Singapore. There was some controversy around it, but we did a whole separate video all about it, and that is linked below if you want to check that out. So overall, like traditional sports, some categories and individual games attract more attention than others, but there is a whole competitive landscape. Alright, next let's jump into the esports teams and how they generally work. And again, in lots of ways, this is pretty similar to traditional sport. The teams consist of players, coaches, and analysts. There are also support staff for mental and physical health, marketing and sponsorship officers, and so on. Some teams focus on a single game primarily, others have a roster of talent across a number of different games. And all of this varies by region across the world, as this is of course global. Teams generally make revenue from a few different things, a combination of tournament winnings, team sponsorships, content creation, merchandise, sales, and sometimes revenue splits with the game developers as well. And it is big business. The top 5 teams are all valued somewhere between $380 to $540 million each. Most of them are also content machines, with millions of subscribers and fans watching their every move. FaZe Clan, the number 4 team by valuation, are crushing content. They have a dedicated roster of talent that stream and make videos, with over 8 million subscribers on their main YouTube channel and about 100 million followers across all of their platforms. Online content, and particularly streaming, are a big part of the esports and wider gaming ecosystem. Lots of casual and pro players stream, interact with fans, and earn through doing it as well. It's been a big part of why the audiences have become as huge as they are. Online communities in general are a major part of this whole story. Gaming becoming part of pop culture has also been a whole movement in and of itself. It crosses over into music, fashion, and entertainment, and continues to grow in dominance, especially with the younger generations. Interestingly as well, quite a few of the members of FaZe Clan are also big fans of Web3 gaming and have been quite public about it. They even have an official car license with Porsche, which looks like it's going to feature in a new upcoming Web3 game as well. So you can begin to see how these esports teams are absolute media beasts in their own rights. The pro players and content creators are the new rock stars of the next generation, and brands are scrambling to work with them. On the professional player side of stuff, teams have entire scouting processes to find new talent. These vary by team, but generally, team scouts and analysts are often keeping an eye out on promising talent. They watch online ranking ladders and amateur tournaments, or sometimes new players are discovered through community recommendations or through watching them stream their gameplay on places like Twitch and YouTube. If they like them, there'll often be a tryout of sorts where they play with maybe the rest of the team and maybe do interviews to get a sense of the player's mentality, work ethic, and if they fit with the team culture. If it all works out, a new player will be offered a player contract, which will detail the player's salary, expectations, length of commitment, and so on. Most pro players have agents and legal teams representing them. And once they've joined the team, players spend most of their time training, which involves a mix of playing the game, reviewing game footage, strategy meetings with players and coaches, physical exercise and nutrition to keep in good health and performing at their very best. And just like physical sport, training at an elite level is intensive. It's full-time and fully professional. Often players live in team or in camps and have access to the highest tier of supporting staff. Of course, a lot of the team's time is spent competing in tournaments and qualifiers, which often involves traveling across the world. The US is a massive hub for esports, but China makes the most revenue, and Southeast Asia certainly have the most engaged and active fan bases currently, followed by the US and then Europe. Again, much like the traditional sports calendars, different game titles have different tournament events and schedules throughout the year, which culminate in finals that fill physical arenas and stadiums across the world. The one that has consistently broken records is the international for the game Dota 2, with the $47.49 million prize pool. The prize pool itself generally comes partly from the game developer Valve, who add a base amount, but the rest is crowdfunded from the Dota 2 community via battle passes throughout the year. Battle passes, if you don't know, are an in-game digital product that gives players various benefits and in-game items. 25% of the total sales of these each year from all the players of the game go into the prize pool. So the international is a massive one, but there is a tournament going on as we're recording this video in Saudi Arabia with a prize pool of $45 million. It runs for 8 weeks. It had fireworks and a drone display at the opening ceremony. It's essentially a massive festival with huge competitive events throughout it. And as I say, there are lots of other tournaments throughout the year for different games. Worlds is the annual League of Legends World Championship organized by the developer Riot Games, which is watched in massive numbers globally as well. There's also the Fortnite Champion Series, a series of events throughout the year, which builds to the FNCS Global Championship in October, happening later this year. And there are lots more that we could talk about. There is also competition at all levels. Not all of it is about the giant elite prize pools. There are numerous fully organized professional and amateur competitions all over the world for hundreds of different games. There is the overall Global Esports Federation, although most countries have their own dedicated esports federations and governing bodies, making sure the rules are fair, dealing with disciplinaries, and making sure that there is equal opportunity and so on. Generally though, this is a joint effort between the game publishers, who are the key players, and these other organizations. And the final question that still sometimes gets asked is esports a real sport? Well, hopefully from the video, you've seen the scale of the whole ecosystem at every level. For players, they train and play at an elite level, and although it might not be physical to the degree of traditional sports, it is physical for fine motor skills, reaction times, strategy, decision-making, teamwork, and so on. There are also physical injuries, and being in peak physical and mental health to compete at an elite level is essential. We're also seeing traditional sports teams start to build their own esports teams, like in F1, and also video game simulation working the other way to train traditional sports athletes off the field too. So esports might look a little different, but is it a real sport? The answer is a pretty clear yes. It's also an industry that offers massive opportunities outside of just being a player. We've talked about coaches, scouts, and analysts, but there are event managers, marketers, sound, broadcast, and production, and many more roles as well. So there we go. Hopefully that is a good overview to give you some context if you're just beginning to learn about this world. There's lots more content across all of Based AF, so do hit subscribe or hit follow on your podcast platform so it comes straight to you, and I will see you for the next episode. Peace.